So financial advisors and planners, investment managers, all of us have been advising clients to do one specific thing for many, many years. And although this is a solid strategy, it has caused a lot of, shall I say, challenges and stress and administration on the back of that advice. And in today's show, we are going to look at why it's so important to address this and what the value is and how we can bring things back together again. So let's start today's show. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you have something warm. I don't know what the heck's going on in Joburg, but it's raining. Obviously, it's cold because it's winter. So, but why is it raining? And why did I wake up in the dark and there was no power? I thought we were only like load shedding at night. So somewhere things change as we move along. But fantastic to be with you this morning. Really excited for today's guest. Tim Vieyra from Seedanalytics and Comotion is joining me. And we are going to talk all about sort of reporting on investments and all sorts of interesting things that come with that. So really excited to get into the conversation with Tim and happy to have him with us this morning. And then also we have David Kopp back, all dressed up for the occasion to talk about current affairs. We have Norma continuing her conversation around employee empowerment from last week. And then I'm going to share with you an app that has really changed the way that we do things in our business. And then a couple of announcements, some awesome stuff again today. And then I'm going to talk to Tim. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. If you're here live, I hope you're still in bed. For those of you brave enough to be running on a treadmill, please, eyes up. Look at the screen. Don't look down. You will fall. So, but yeah, let me say a warm good morning, Terence. Looking forward to seeing you a little bit later. And Gerry Nel, goeiemôre. Hope it's going well. Goeiemôre, Kobus. Nice to see you. Hope it's going well with you as well. Elmien, good morning. Thank you for saying hi. Jonita Moelman, goeiemôre. Hoop het gaan lekker daar in Natal. En Albert Fritz, it feels like I saw most of you the other day in the best practice huddle. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. There's Mr. Mark Western Ford. So Natal well presented. So they just, and you know why there's so many Natal people here? It's because they're starting to point fingers at me saying that I better come and visit, which I will do, and I will organize a breakfast just so everybody is clear. Good morning, Mark, down in Australia. Really awesome to see you. I hope it's going well, and that you and I can also get to catch up again soon. Alrighty, so without any further ado and all the niceties behind us, thank you very much. Let's head on over to David. David, let's hear what you've got for us this morning.
Good morning, everyone, on this nice cold Gauteng day. And yeah, it was a choice between the gown and the jacket to keep warm. So I thought, given the gravity of the situation, the jacket was a better choice. So in today's current affairs, COVID, Zondo, immigration, and apples. So the news that is on everyone's lips, or not, as the case may be, on the 22nd of June, the South African Health Minister repealed the last remaining COVID regulations. These regulations were proclamated on the 4th of May under the National Health Act after the state of disaster ended. So the regulations that have been repealed include the wearing of masks is no longer required, the limitation on gatherings has been lifted, and there are no longer any travel restrictions for traveling to South Africa. The question is now, what do we do with all the cloth and disposable masks that cannot be recycled? Well, my favorite suggestion that I've heard is hamster hammocks. Then the final Zondo report, after almost 4 years and 930 million rand, and more than 5,000 pages later, a judicial inquiry into corruption during the former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma's rule, is over. Now, obviously, the real work of fixing the broken state and bringing those to book, who looted more than 495 billion from South Africa, has yet to begin. So as reported on MoneyWeb, the cumbrously named Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud in the public sector, including organs of state, laid out a web of graft that stretched from the national power and rail utilities to Zuma and his cabinet. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who headed the probe, and submitted his final set of findings on Wednesday, recommended the prosecutions of scores of officials ranging from former heads of state, companies to government ministers, and an overhaul of the appointment processes and managerial controls. Yet just a handful of arrests have been made in South Africa so far, while two of the Gupta brothers who stand accused of working hand in glove with Zuma to steal from state coffers are in custody in Dubai. Meanwhile, some of those who have been implicated continue to hold senior government posts, the state power utilities implementing regular blackouts, and logistics company Transnet can't get some of the country's most valuable exports to ports. So as I say, the proof is now in the pudding. So let's see, are the wrongdoers who are indicated in the report going to be brought to book? Then the brain drain. So PROfMed Chief Executive Craig Comrie has warned that South Africa is seeing a significant drain of skilled medical professionals, including nurses, who have long-term impact on South Africa's healthcare sector. PROfMed is one of South Africa's largest restricted medical schemes and represents some 36,000 professional families in the country, of which just over half of doctors and nurses. Comrie said that over the last 5 years, between 240 and 300 doctors and their families have left annually, with the country currently producing about 2,000 doctors a year in its various medical schools. He noted that a majority of these professionals leaving are general practitioners, but this is because the country has already relatively few specialists left over. So one of the aspects which might be pushing them away is the rate of doctor to patient rates. So in 2009, the country had 0.79 doctors per 1,000 patients, which is poor when compared to the United Kingdom, which is a level of 3, Brazil 2.3, and Mexico 2.4. So this is, again, something that needs to be monitored very closely. Then, in terms of our braai stories, if you tried a new variety of apple every day, it would take 20 years to eat them all. If you're the kind of person who appreciates a variety and would love a taste test and a new type of apple every day of the week, then you're in for a decades-long endeavor. It would take you more than 20 years to try the 7,500 varieties of apples in the world. So on that note, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, Francois. Back to you in the studio.
Yeah, interesting. And next up, we have Norma. Norma talking about empowering employees. And really looking forward to the second part to this conversation. Today, she is talking about 5 ways to empower employees. So let's listen to Norma.
Good morning. So today is the second part of what we started to discuss last week, which was to first get the leader of the company, the financial planner, to empower themselves and get the organization to a place where anyone that comes into the organization has this beautiful platform that they can work from. So today I want to discuss and just share a couple of points with you, which relates to empowering the employee. So the first thing I think is very important to empower the employee is to set goals. So the employee needs to set goals for themselves, but you as the financial planner or the leader needs to also set goals for the employee and within the organization. So as we know, goals are there to really just stretch ourselves and just take us out of our comfort zone. So also goals makes us, our brain focus on something. And it really just makes us learn and grow, and it also directs us. So if we have a goal, for instance, we have to align our thinking with that goal, and then that makes us stretch. So that also makes us supervise our brains, because we have to be aware of our thinking all the time. Because if we have positive thinking, we'll have positive results. If we have negative thinking, we'll have negative results. The next thing I want to touch on is that employees need to start thinking for themselves. And I know you think maybe this is quite straightforward, but as we grow up, we are always taught how to think. Then we go to school, we go to study, and then in some work environments, employees are really told what to think all the time. So for me, I have a rule for my clients. They're not allowed to say, I don't know. So whenever they say, I don't know, I tell them, okay, so if you could take the best guess, what would it be? And even in our organizations, when we delegate any work, it's almost like we tell the employee to go and think about it, not just to come with all of the questions. And that back and forth also wastes so much time. So they can really go, if I delegate a task to them, they can go and ask all the questions. So write down all the questions you have about this task, answer all of those questions, and also tell me what is your reasoning behind it. What's your process of thinking? And then when all of that is done, then you bring it to me. Then we have a quick 15-minute meeting and we discuss those points. So me as the employer then see how the employee is thinking, and you can direct them. So this is the stuff I agree with you on. This is great. And these are the things that we can maybe work on. So I can see your brain was somewhere here, and I want you to more think in this line of go this line of thinking. And also maybe just slot in with how you want them to think within the organization. What is the best way of thinking about it? The other one, which is very important, is for them to just take responsibility for their own emotional health and emotional well-being and their emotional state. So that is really, you as the employer are busy running your business. You don't have time to look after their emotional state. So them being overwhelmed or stressed or being disappointed or them not getting along with their colleagues. So that's their responsibility. And they have to become aware of what is happening in their own minds, and they have to solve for that. So if they're overwhelmed, maybe that's an area for maybe further development. But why are you overwhelmed? Just start asking questions. Oh, I think I'm overwhelmed because I have so much to do. Okay, so what do you have to do exactly? And then when they tell you they have 10 things to do, then maybe help them break it down, help them prioritize, help them schedule their calendars. Another one which I also want to touch on, which is closely related to what I was just talking about, the emotional state, is confidence and self-confidence. So we all know confidence comes from us just repeating and doing the things to eventually get to confidence. Self-confidence is where you have that inner knowing that I can do anything, I can figure anything out. And it's so much easier to work with employees that have that self-confidence because they are the people that's going to, take the lead, go do things, take risks. And then lastly, to really just believe in them first. So for me, that was a big thing. Whenever I set big goals and I didn't completely believe in that goal, it was always amazing to know that there is someone that believes in me. So you as the example what is possible, if you can give the employee that belief that you believe in them and believe in their success, they can actually borrow that belief from you until they get to that point where they actually believe it in themselves. They can also see the possibility that you see in them. So that's what I have to share with you today. Thank you for being here, and I'll speak to you again next week.
Alrighty, good stuff. And next up, I'm going to share with you an app that I have been using for quite a while and that we employed in our business, and that has surprised many other apps, because if there's one thing that is very irritating to me, it is having to go into 6 different places to do something and not having a proper place to collaborate and to know if I'm looking for something, it is there. So let me share that with you in the next segment. Alrighty, so what sorcery am I talking about? And this is also something that came up in the best practice huddle the other day again, where we were just talking around different things and sort of what people are using. And then one of the people showed what they were doing. And it just reminded me that I use this and it's actually so amazing. And I don't know why I haven't shared this with any of you before, but the app is called Notion. Now, Notion is an all-in-one app. I would say it's a place where you can write. It's a place where you can manage projects or manage work. So it's got the Kanban, Trello kind of boards. It has databases, which is very cool. It sounds very complicated. It's actually not. All it means is that I can have information in different places, in different tables or different, call them sheets, spreadsheets, if you will, and then bring them all together to give me one view, and everything updates dynamically as I change anything. Everything else is updated. I can tell stories through that. I use this extensively to put all the sort of training for my business on there to sort of show if Lene or Unita or anyone needs to do something. There's a video clip for them of how to do it. Anything that we're planning, we do on Notion, anything like that. So I even run this entire show's the planning, the actual episode frameworks, and all of it is all on there. And the nice thing about it is that I can go, and if I'm on the plane, I can work on it on my phone. As soon as I'm done, it will sync back. I can continue on my laptop. So wherever I'm working on this, it is just always up to date, and I've got access to this information on the go. So, excuse me. So the one thing that I obviously would say is I wouldn't be putting client information and things like that on here, but for your business, your processes, your training, planning, managing projects, etc., those kind of things are really here. It does sit behind a login, but I wouldn't be uploading, although you can, because you can upload files, you can embed videos, you can link things from OneDrive and Dropbox and all sorts of places all in one. But I would definitely not be putting client IDs and things like that on here, because you want to keep that on your CRM where it's got bank level securities and things like that probably. So much better to do that. I'm quickly going to maybe share my screen with you and just give you a sort of an overview of what some of these things can look like. And I'm just going to choose something just to sort of give you a idea of what you can use this for. All right, so let me share my screen quickly. There you go. All right. Cool. So this is sort of what Notion looks like. So you have on the left-hand side, there's a menu with different things. So the private pages are pages that only you can see. And then shared, you can share this with anyone. And the nice thing is you can share it with people, specific people that will have access to this, people in your team or just people in general. And this is for free, by the way. So I have upgraded to the paid version like I've done with many of the software that I use. But the reason was just so that I can share with more people, and that there's a couple of things that I can do more when I want to export and do certain things. So that's why I'm paying for this. But the free version, you can really go boss and do a lot with this. And you can share, I think, with up to 5 people that you can invite to collaborate. So you can do that. So if you did share anything, then it would be there. And if you can also have your favorites, the things that you use the most, just to have easy access to that. You get notifications when there's updates and all sorts of things happening when other people are working on a document, for example. And here you can see you've got different sort of things. You can set this up, and it's all drag and drop. Or if you want to go there, you just click on the little plus and you can choose all these different types of content that you can put in. I mean, look at that, my word. There's so many different things that you can embed and link and create. So these are called pages. When you click on it, you can have pages within pages within pages. You can create lists. You can create to-dos, which is very cool. I use this a lot. So you can have something like that. And then as things are done, you can tick them off. So you can see a lot of the functionality from a Trello, etc. Also, I mean, I've built dashboards and all sorts of stuff in here that just pulls all the work that is allocated to the different people in the business. We'll pull all of that, and you can have a clear idea of what's overdue, what's due soon, what are we working on, what's in the queue. So there's a whole host of things that you can do with this. So I'm not going to go into a training session, but I just want to make you aware of Notion.so. So Notion.so is this app. I've actually downloaded the Windows app as well. So this is what you're seeing here, but you can use it in your browser and 100%. They've got great training videos and all of that as well. So notion.so is where it's at. So if you want to learn more, please go check it out and let me know what you think. Alrighty, so with that, let's kick off some announcements, and let me just get some music started for this, because this is important. So now I closed my own Notion and I don't have my announcements. So hold on 1 second. Alrighty, there we go. So the first announcement is then on the 5-day video challenge that's starting on the 4th of July. So it's running from the 4th of July until the 8th of July, and it's on PROpulsion Pro. It's for PROpulsion Pro members only, but I do want to make you aware, if you want to join PROpulsion Pro, it's 350 Rand a month. Then please consider doing that. You can check it out at propulsion.co.za/pro. So that's that for the first one. And what we're going to be focusing on in the 5-day video challenge is to get you started with video, and just so that you've got an idea of where to start, just to make a simple video. Don't worry, you're not going to post it out to the world unless you want to. But it is being in a group of people that are at the same place and the same stage as you, who wants to learn more about this and become just a little bit more comfortable with the technology itself. How to create that video, or how to record it, how to get it onto your laptop, for example, and just to do a very basic edit, and then how to export it again so that you can use it and get it ready. Maybe you want to send it via WhatsApp. There's certain restrictions. So very basic stuff. That's really what we're going to be focusing on in this challenge. We also have the 30-day video challenge, which goes into a lot more detail. But for now, we're just going to do a 5-day video challenge that starts on the 4th of July and just runs for that week. All right, so then the big one is the PROpulsion Summit. So this is taking place on the 23rd of August. It's a virtual event. Really excited. The tickets go on sale next week. And this is, again, PROpulsion Pro members. You have complimentary access, so you will just get your access. But for those of you not PROpulsion Pro members, the tickets will go on sale next week. And the structure is going to be awesome. It's going to be just a sort of a 3/4 of a day, and dynamic, quick, fun, insightful, impactful, valuable. That's what we're going to do. We have 7 keynote speakers, each doing like a 10-minute talk at the most. So we're not going to bore you with half-an-hour talks or people reading from a screen or anything like that. So this is going to be good. And then we also have 6 panel discussions across a variety of things with some great facilitators who is going to run with these. So really a day, and it will include CPD, very important. So it will have CPD. But really looking forward to this, and keep an eye out for this. There will be a WhatsApp and an email, and obviously announcements next week on this as well. But the PROpulsion Summit, 23rd of August, please put it in your diary. Really looking forward to that one. Then the last announcement is that I invested. I had to postpone my retirement yet again. So I postponed, I have to postpone my retirement, but I invested heavily into more studio equipment, technology. So I got 2 more cameras that can do 4K and all sorts of stuff, because not only for the show, but also for the other content that we create. So the learning content and just other content that we are creating. We really want to up the production value. So not just the quality of the video, but how it's structured, how dynamic it is, how it flows, fun. Like fun is always important to me. So we will definitely be upping our game there. Invested more into more audio equipment. So really excited about the audio equipment. And then, there's one more piece of technology that I am waiting for. That's on back order. So when that comes, we can sort of start implementing all of this. But really excited for that. So keep an eye out. The show will evolve, and our production and content and all of it will evolve. The events we put on will evolve. So really excited for that, and just thanks for being on this journey with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the announcements for today. And now I'm excited to have a conversation with Tim Vieyra, and we'll do that on the other side of this. Mr. Vieyra, welcome to the show.
Hi, Francois. Thanks very much, man. It's really good to be here. It's a little bit early, I'm not going to lie, but it's good to be here.
Especially in Cape Town. 7 o'clock is not 7 o'clock in Cape Town.
Well, the sun's starting to come up now, but it's
Is it?
dark.
Okay.
Yeah. It's dark.
Awesome. Tim, just a warm welcome. I'm keen, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, and tell us a little bit more about Comotion and Seed before we get into the conversation.
All right, great. My name is Tim Vieyra, obviously. I am the CEO of two companies, actually, Comotion and Seedanalytics. And in fact, Seedanalytics is part of Comotion. Seedanalytics, many of you may know Seedanalytics as the company that does data aggregation and insights, analytics, statements for customers and the like for financial intermediaries. And we started about 8 or 9 years ago. And Comotion is a software development company. So you can see how those two would fit together. And we do in Comotion a lot of software development for financial services companies, and we build a data analytics platform there and so on. So that's about us. What did I miss?
No, I think you've got it. Hopefully you won't be missing anything anymore by this time. That's cool.
Yeah, you can hear that I've been on play with that. You have to. Yes. This is the story, right? Turn your brain off and tell the story.
Absolutely. And you've also been traveling. Like, you just got back this week, I think. So yeah, it's been a busy time for you. And I want to sort of get into this whole thing around, because financial planners, advisors, investment advisors, wealth managers, all the different sort of disciplines in financial planning as far as investments are concerned. There's one principle that we have been following, and everybody talks about it, and everybody says, like, this is a good approach to take, and that is sort of to advise clients to diversify their investments and not to put everything into one basket, keep the eggs separate, invest into different platforms, different funds, different, like, all these kind of things. And for many, many years, that's exactly what we've done. Now, obviously, there's this bit of an unintended consequence there, because that's all great and it's managing risk and reducing risk, and maybe we're trying to maximize the long-term return for each level of risk that we're taking, all that kind of stuff. But Tim, what is one of the unintended consequences that we're faced with? Quite a number of years later, people's investments scattered all over the place.
Yeah. Was there a question in there?
Yeah. I'm just asking, what is that unintended consequence?
Look, I think that with every positive, there's unintended consequences. That's economics 101, right? So I think in the South African market over the last 20, 30 years, we've driven innovation hard, right? So there's been a lot of options in the local investment space. And that approach of what you'd call kind of diversification from an investment point of view, but also from a platform point of view, where you would have multiple policies or multiple products around the place, I think is probably a function of the fact that we've innovated, and because we've innovated with new generations of products, people take out the next generation as it goes along, and obviously with the legacy products, it's often a lot more difficult to or can be difficult to shift your funds without penalties and so on. So that's why I think we've ended up from a vehicle point of view, from an investment platform point of view, with this kind of scattered thing. But I think also, when you deal with, say, potentially higher net worth customers, a lot of factors have driven offshore investment, right? And that has meant offshore platforms, some money landing directly in offshore platforms and so on. So I think that if you look at those two different kind of reasons for diversification, one is obviously investment diversification, which you can achieve on a single platform, right? And kind of vehicle and platform diversification. There's two different kind of drivers behind that. The positive thing is that we've driven innovation in the industry. The negative thing is now we have this kind of fragmented, scattered scattered investment environment that intermediaries somehow have to navigate, right?
And the problem is that the client is still wanting to see, like, yeah, but is my money growing? Is my money working for me? And to get that view, I think because of all of this, so, and I love how you set it out to say, well, there's this good and the bad almost. Yeah, we had innovation, there's new, more innovative things. I think platforms have upgraded what they offer advisors. And I think now recently also what I've seen is, I don't know if you see this, but because I mean, if you at Seed are getting all this data in, and you can sort of see per FSP basically, I think there is a drive for financial advice to say, look, we've got to reduce the number of platforms that we work with, because typically we have access to the same funds on all these different platforms, and we, as they craft like house views and things like that, they will go down to say, well, I only need maybe these 1 or 2 or 3 platforms at the most. We have our favorite, and then if that doesn't work, there's 1 or 2 other alternatives, but we are not working with the entire universe of platforms anymore. And I think the driver for that is, like, how do I tell clients, what they have and whether their money has grown in totality? Because at the moment, as it stands, like, whatever information you get is per investment. So you've got to look at them separately. But, having that one view, I think, is a big challenge.
Yeah, well, this is why we started the company, right? Is because of that challenge, right? So I often think that if I think of a typical customer, a typical end investor, most people, unless they've, say, got an active stock portfolio, don't wake up every morning wondering what their retirement annuity is worth, right? So it's one of those things where the role of the intermediary is key, is important, and I think this is where intermediaries need to kind of have their finger on the button a little bit here, right? So the challenge, the reason that we started the company is that you have this fragmented environment, particularly in South Africa. It's not it's in a lot of other markets you don't have the same kind of structure, where you have one person with lots of investments, and now you have to somehow advise them holistically, right? So that's obviously possible, and that's why the financial advisory industry exists, right? But if you look at how to deal with that systematically, I mean, that's really why we started the company, and we saw that it was very costly and not often done very well within the industry to provide that kind of ongoing view. But yeah.
And like, I worked in a practice where we had 1.5 people literally, like, looking at the values, downloading the values. So they had these files and like sheets of paper, and they would actually, like, if the investment started on the 13th of the month, on the 13th, all the investments that started on the 13th would go and look at the values, update the sheet by hand, and then translate that into the spreadsheet, because every client then had a spreadsheet to sort of show, and it was extremely valuable, like extremely valuable. But as you mentioned earlier, so costly, and trust me, we made mistakes. So not the best way, and so I think that's where the cost comes in, because when you need to start paying people, and as your book grows, you're going to need more people to get this done, and the more people that work on this, the bigger the chance of that little mistake creeping in. But yeah, I think the main thing for me is I can't really track progress. I waste a lot of time. I can use people to do other stuff. So that's the problem, right? And as you said rightly, that's why you started Seed and why Seed exists today. But if you really start thinking now about some other spin-offs from this, because this is something that I experienced firsthand and that I saw firsthand, and that what for me was this wow moment. So even though we had these 1.5 people, and I say 1.5 because the one person, like, half the job was helping with that, the other job was something else. That effort and being consistent, there's a lot of good that came out of that. But I first want to ask you, like, if we look at this call it constant or consistent communication, feedback to the client, giving them a consolidated view so that they can see all of it. Let's just first talk about this question, because this is something that a lot of advisors push back on, is monthly reporting or monthly communication, monthly information versus annual. So, what is your take on this? Because I know, I have mine, but I'm keen to hear yours.
We've had this debate with a lot of kind of prospective customers, existing customers. Do you send your statements out? I think to be honest, a lot of advisors kind of feel like, ooh, I haven't been communicating, right? And to start communicating monthly now might show me up, right? Because, suddenly you start communicating and then customers say, hey, but, what were you doing, right? And then all the issues will come out at the same time, right? As you start communicating, it's like forming a friendship again after you haven't seen someone for years, right? But my view is that if your customer can't answer the question, who is my financial advisor, right? So if you ask a customer, who's my financial advisor, will your customer say you, right? And if he doesn't say you, why not, right? It's because you haven't been communicating. And in fact, I think, you said that you had a process in your advisory to kind of engage with customers, figure out where their financial situation is and engage with them. I'd argue that's why we draw fees, right? That's why we draw a trail fee of the investment, is to help customers know where they are and manage that investment on an ongoing basis. That is the reason that we exist, right? Now, if you look historically, our industry has been very good at selling the initial product. We know that, right? Everybody who has kind of the means has an RA, right? But to move from that to that kind of ongoing services, not only communication, it's these other processes that you need around it that you've highlighted here. We're not doing our jobs, and customers pick up on that, right? And it comes down to that question: who is your financial advisor? And it's an interesting thing. If you say, so how many financial advisors we've got here on the talk, think about the question: how many customers do you have, right? Say you have 300. You send out a survey today from a third party, not from you, and you ask them that question: how many will say you? And that's the thing that gets a lot of people thinking about communication. Then suddenly the answer becomes, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe we should do it at least quarterly. A lot of guys settle on kind of quarterly so that they don't, just to limit the, limit the feedback. But I say more often, the better. I'm keen to hear what you think about this.
Come on, button. Yes. So my view is actually monthly is fantastic. And the counter argument that you usually get when somebody don't want to do that is like, but clients shouldn't be looking at their investments. It's long term. Once a year is enough. Blah blah blah. And for me, there's a couple of things. I was also always of that school of thought. And then when you see the stuff in practice and you see the response and you see when the markets go down, I'm not talking about like fluctuations. I'm talking like now, like there's a crash or there is like serious downturn in the market, and there's maybe 3 phone calls from clients instead of 100 phone calls from clients. That's when you realize the value of monthly. Because what does that do for me? Well, there's a few things there that happen, and I saw this like literally, like how often we would send out those statements, and then somebody would reply, "Oh, I'm so glad, I wanted to contact you. Like, please, can we add this? Or I now have this amount I want to invest. Or, what, I need help with my will." Or like there's whole loads of things that people email us back on. So that's staying top of mind. You can't beat that. And if you're only going to do it once a year, you're not going to be top of mind. If this conversation comes up, I'm telling you now, like a client is not even going to remember if you send it to them once, like, oh, my advisor does this fantastic report for me and I can see everything in one place. But if they get it monthly, and this is the other thing, what I've also seen is it's the one email they open. So there's a lot of power in this, but I'll get back to that. So for me, there's sort of two big things here. Is that the first thing is that it does build trust. Because why? Because they say, oh, Tim is looking at my investment. He knows what's going on. He's got an eye on it. because together with that statement, you can provide input, you can provide feedback, and because that's the email they open, that's the value. So they will read, unless you write like a thesis. But if you keep it short and just say, look, this is what's happening. Don't worry. This is normal. Just remember what we spoke about before. Just stick to the principles, blah, blah, blah. So it's not to say the client won't phone you, but I promise you, I've seen it twice, like where there was a serious downturn. If 3 clients phoned in that time, it was many. And I think that's because of the trust it builds in this. The second part is then sort of, if you provide value in this, it unlocks other opportunities for you that just flows back to the business, and it's not even hard work to uncover those. So that's my view, and that's been my experience.
Interesting thing that you bring up here, and that is the context, right? So if people say, right, I only want to, you keep disappearing. It's quite disconcerting.
If you prefer me on the screen, I'll stay on the screen. I'm just highlighting you, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's better. But it's context, right? So if you're communicating on a monthly basis, if you're just giving kind of just figures, right, and not giving the context for it in the context of a kind of long-term plan, your allocations and so on, that it's about how you communicate, right? So I mean, some guys like to do it depends on the customers as well. Some customers like to read a kind of market commentary, that's relevant to their investments, right? But a lot of customers just want, in the context of their financial plan, to know that I'm kind of on track, or I'm not on track, or things have gone wrong, or what have you. But the market crash thing is very interesting, because what we say is that you actually have to be proactive at that point, right? You must be phoning your customers, not the other way around, right? And what that does for, what that really does for trust is, I mean, we know Bitcoin fell out of bed now, right? I don't know how many advisors are advising exposure to Bitcoin, but perhaps, you need to determine who your exposed customers are if you can, and call them. But the big example that we had was the COVID crash, right? We had in that March of, March of 20, when? Just
2020.
What year are we on? March 2020, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
We had the dip, right? 1 month dip, and then, in fact, it came up the next month. It was like a little V, right? And in that month, we sent out to all advisors. It was actually a big manual process on our side, because we didn't have a automated process for this. We got some of our analysts to just draw who the greatest customers at risk are per advisor. So we said, if you're an advisor, here's your customers, but these are the guys you really have to call, right? Because these are the guys that are, say, closest to retirement and have the biggest dip, right? And firstly, the advisors were shell-shocked at that point. They said they didn't know what to do, and they just treated that as like, oh man, this is what I have to do this now, right? And that proactive phone call, I think, actually helped to preserve a lot of investments, because the kind of the temptation at that point for a lot of people, I know we as investment professionals understand that you shouldn't like sell the dip, right? Particularly if you have a diversified portfolio. I think it did a lot to preserve, people's retirement pots at that point, right? And not to let them kind of disinvest from equities and so on. Because if they'd done that then, they would have missed the next month. 1 month later, I think it recovered pretty much, a lot of people recovered all the way, right? So it's just about like the right information at the right time, right? And I think that's us as financial professionals and investment professionals really need to kind of take that, that view, right? That we are managing people's future livelihoods, and from that perspective, need to take it seriously. And the referrals thing is an interesting one. We have heard a lot of stories as you start to report, suddenly people want to refer their friends, or they say, oh man, can't I also get this on the report? Or, and then suddenly that money kind of shifts over. So from a business perspective, it's like a no-brainer to start to do something like this, just kind of engaging with your customers more regularly.
Yeah. And I mean, you're sort of leading into sort of another thing that I want to talk to you about, because like, having this information at your fingertips and being able, so it's not just about giving your clients a bird's eye view and an overall view of where they are. It's definitely also about having that bird's eye view over your practice and seeing, like, as you just said, like identify this group of people that you need to talk to now, and not like, oh, where am I going to get this, and try and use your CRM and all sorts of stuff, because a lot of this information may not reside in your CRM. You may have your client information and who they are and how old they are and sort of where they are and whether they have certain products or not. But there's a lot of underlying stuff that you won't have in the CRM. Now, data is obviously absolutely crucial when it comes to this. And I've seen, like, working with many different advisors, with many different product providers, with tech providers. Like, if there is one thing that I can't believe today, I think if there's something that we want to do for the industry and the profession that's going to make things so much easier, simpler, etc., it would be to have a standardized way for the data to be made available. But unfortunately, and luckily for you, that is not the case, because data comes in all shapes and formats and different naming conventions, and just, yes, it is all over the place. Talk to me a little bit about that challenge, Tim, because, like, surely that's a big part of the problem, and why it's not so easy to just go and, because I can go and download my book from Alan Gray and Investec or 91 and whatever. But to bring this all together is a challenge. And, so I want to talk about this. Like, why is there no standard format? What's your view on this? And
so I think that the industry is moving towards some form of standardization. Obviously, there are a number of efforts in the industry to move to a more standardized kind of process. I think the challenge comes in where you're always going to get this kind of 70-30 or 80-20 type of thing, which will mean it's a challenge for a little while. I don't know if it's going to be a challenge forever, but it's going to be a challenge for a little while. That a lot of local investors, particularly the affluent and high net worth kind of investors, have not all their data, and a lot of their money is sitting in offshore kind of Channel Island type platforms and the like, that may or may not be administered from South Africa. And if you want to be looking at a holistic view, you have to catch the 20%, otherwise it gets less meaningful, right? But I think the idea of the industry moving towards standardization, I think, would be very positive for the industry from a data perspective. I think we shouldn't underestimate the challenge, though. We deal a lot with the data departments we deal with 70 platforms, and there are other priorities than data standardization, right? I see that for a company to get a business case for standardization is going to be a challenge in an environment where they're just trying to make sense of their own data internally. So a lot of the data guys are focused on just making sense of their own data. So we'll see where the industry goes. But for now, and let me just say something about kind of our business model and data aggregation. So we actually think that data aggregation will get kind of easier, right, as more standardization happens, as companies provide better feeds and so on. But it's turning that data into kind of usable tool sets, which is an increasing challenge, right? So ensuring that you have this kind of insight at your fingertips, so that you can really manage your customers' existing pot and where they are in the context of their goals and so on, is very important. But what I think is quite interesting is that where the industry needs to go is increasingly incorporating other sources of data. And I talk about things like right down to identifying, say, life stage changes of your customers, right? So if you follow them on Twitter or I don't know how many of you are friends with your clients on Facebook, and you see new baby born, right? Maybe that's the time to reach out and start talking about the financial plan. And in my view, if you have been communicating consistently, it's a little bit less of a out the blue kind of contact. It's not a cold contact at that point. It's not just a lead, right? That's we shouldn't see that as a lead. We should see that as using available data to manage our customers' needs on an ongoing basis, right? And I think more and more, we should incorporate a lot of all these kind of sources of data to do that, right? Does that make sense to you? Answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this is the one place where banking, I think, is well, even though they're archaic, have been miles ahead because they've got standards. From day one, they started saying, guys, how do we do this in a standard way?
Yep.
Whereas the investment world, just everybody ran in their own direction and created their own thing. And it's absolutely like that. So, I mean, that is the challenge, just getting things into the same format. And then the next challenge would be to actually then try and tell a story through that data and make sense of it. The other big question I want to ask you, but let's want just a very short and sweet answer, is there's also this debate going on against, like, because some of the platforms will provide a daily transactional feed. So meaning that every single day they will send through the latest value, whatever went through pricing, etc. Or there's some platforms that only does monthly, so they only give you, like, you still get transactions but only for the month. And then there's specifically on the life side, I know they particularly just give you, this is the balance at the end of the month. They don't give you all the cash flows that happened in between, so there's no withdrawals, no costs, no nothing. I mean, your view on this, is there value for a financial advisor to have a daily updated value coming in, or is it fine to sort of, and then the timing of that, does it matter if let's just say that the values are on the 1st of the month, but we only send out statements on the 10th or the 15th or the 20th of that month? Does it matter if something happened in between?
This is a debate as well, man. I think we've got pressure to, we report, I think it's on day 12 or 13 of a month. My operations team is going to kill me for not knowing that date, but okay. We busy. The earlier part of the debate was, should we do annually, quarterly, or monthly? Right now, this is kind of extending that to daily. We've settled on monthly, and that seems to align well with most long-term financial planning needs. I mean, if you're managing a stock portfolio, right, monthly is 12 days after month end is just not going to cut it, right? So there you would need never mind daily, you'd need up to the second reporting on that stuff. But that's not where most people are, right? So most people just want to kind of have that peace of mind that they know where they are. They have that regular touch base. Whether it's quarterly or monthly, I think is more the debate, rather than monthly or daily. But it's always better to have a more fresh view of the figure, right? Isn't it? I mean, it's always like good to have the most up-to-date view of the figure. And I think
sorry, okay.
It's a debate,
Yeah, I just wanted to say it just depends, right? So what happened between day 1 and day 13? So if the markets went up, I want the latest value. If the markets went down, no, it's fine. Let's leave it like that. So
often the platforms do a lot over that month-end kind of closeout that actually means the month-end value can be more credible, right? So it's a debate.
All right. So my sort of next part to this is, so if you've got this, I mean, there is additional value. So because once the data is in a specific format and we know what story it's telling, it enables us to do this bulk reporting, consolidated reporting to a client. Then also, I mean, there's other stuff I can use that data for. So it becomes very valuable in my business. And maybe just one or two things that we can use the data for to run better businesses.
Yeah. So I think from a business perspective, right, the main focus is really on kind of the value of a business, right? Like as a financial advisor, and what I say to guys is we have to, as an investment advisory industry, not see ourselves as freelancers. We need to build institutions. We need to build businesses, right? And things that would influence the value of your business is really what you want to be watching there. So new volumes, cash flows into existing accounts as well as new customers. Where is that money coming from? Understanding if it's a switch between accounts or an external flow of money, you've got to keep an eye on that. The profitability of your customers to your business, right? So you should have a good sense of what it costs you to service a customer in terms of your time and so on. And perhaps you have some segmentation. if you know what income you're making from customers, you can very quickly get to some kind of view of profitability and run your business accordingly, right? And I think that's really the main focus of business analytics is to manage your business according to that. I think that's the main one.
And just being able to make better decisions quicker with more confidence. I think that's also a very big one.
And if a customer phones you, like know what's going on with them, right? So that's I think that's the main thing, right? So in the context of their goals, in the context of the recent history, know your customer, right? That's
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Tim, thank you very much. I've got the website address, seedanalytics.info, is on the screen. If you want to learn more, you can also find Tim on LinkedIn and connect with him there. And if you want to learn more, and you can also chat to Andries de Jong, and Chepo is the other salesperson or development person at Seed. So if you want to learn more and check out what they can do for your business, please have a look. Tim, but from my side, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's gone by so quickly. But just wishing you well, and we'll keep in touch and chat soon.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was fun.
Cool stuff. Happiness. All right, so some insightful stuff and important parts to your practice, because this is a lot to do with being more efficient and productive as well. There's a whole host of things that comes with this, not only that the building trust and unlocking value and all that good stuff, but this is really an important aspect to just make your business run smoother as well. So next week, my guest is Marguerite Engelbrecht from My Journey to Freedom, and looking forward to chat to her. She was a speaker at the 2021 Global Financial Planning Conference, and they're doing some phenomenal work. She works together with Mary J. Fourie. So looking forward to chatting to Marguerite next week. So we'll be back next week, same time, same place. Remember, the podcast goes out on a Saturday. You can also share and listen to that. And just have a great weekend, and stay safe, be blessed, and prosper. Let's raise the bar. Bye-bye. Love you. See you next time.